to be awake, to be alive, to be here now, to breathe, to experience, to dream, to love. Words cannot touch the depth of my being, my heart. Thank you. I love you.
Hmm. That sounds nice in your voice.
So read it yesterday while at work. Sometimes I, get distracted going to Facebook and see what's there. And I was stunned in a beautiful way. When you're stunned, you're stopped. It's like a real the mind has to just stop for a minute. Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like, that you're just experiencing so much love and gratitude, and somehow, like, your heart wants to express it, but there's really no way to express it. Like, there's really no way to express it, and anything that you might think of is like, no, it's just not it. And I don't know, I feel like that mood was kind of there when I wrote that, and that just came.
Well, chapter 25 is an extraordinary chapter. Again, more direct instructions from Ribu. And what I found last night while reading it is that if I skip over the words vikalpa and sankalpa and bhava and just read the English, it kind of goes a little easier. And that's not to disrespect these great terms, but so much as just to try to make the understanding a little smoother.
Yeah, I often do that as a. It just like it's more meaningful then, isn't it, when you're an English speaker, and if you're not familiar with those words, like.
Yeah. Maybe if you're with a teacher who uses those words all the time, then that fits right in. But can I read?
Please.
Chapter 25. Supreme liberation by the conviction of the pure Brahman. In order that the knowledge of the exalted, undivided Supreme Brahman may be made firm and strong, in this discourse I shall speak to you again about the conviction of being the pure Supreme. If you have that conviction as instructed, the concepts and imagination, doubts, notions of the mind will cease without the least remnant. Son, daughter, if they are destroyed in the intellect that has eliminated concepts, fixed ideas, doubts, notions, difference, imagination, the perfectly full knowledge shall arise. I am, indeed, of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is mere consciousness alone. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is an expanse of consciousness. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is blemishless. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is without interspace. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme, which is all reality. I am indeed ever of the nature of the Supreme, which is ever bliss. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is only myself. Be rid of the imaginations, doubts, notions with such constant conviction.
Can I read it first?
Please. Skip ahead if you want.
I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is pure. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the mass of bliss. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is eternal. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is taintless. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is reality. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is changeless. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is non-dual. Be rid of doubts, imaginations, notions, with such conviction always. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme, which is without beginning or end. I am indeed of the nature that is undivided, complete and perfectly full. I am indeed of the nature which is without caste or lineage or such. I am indeed of the nature of the attachmentless Supreme, which has no connections. I am indeed of the nature of the Supreme, which is differenceless and divisionless. I am indeed of the nature of the fearless Supreme, which is unconcerned. I am indeed of the nature of the one absolute devoid of anything. Be rid of doubts, imagination, notions, with such conviction always.
The conviction reminds me of vigilance that we mentioned last week.
Mm.
Yeah, the conviction and
Mm-hmm.
vigilance. Same,
Yeah.
same, only
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so, a doubt comes up, an imagination comes up.
Mm.
Imagination's so inviting,
Yeah. To the mind.
but unreal.
Yeah.
Mm,
It's really like an addiction, you know,
mm,
the addiction to the mind.
mm.
We're in like rehab.
Indeed,
Mm.
indeed.
Everyone in the world is in rehab. Well, kind of. Different kinds of rehab. Some people are just full on taking the drug. But rehab's available for everyone.
And ultimately effortless, which is astoundingly beautiful.
Yeah.
So this verse, as I was reading last night, is so beautiful. You may want to read it too. I read it like several times. It's verse 6.
Okay.
Being ever of such conviction alone about the one absolute in your heart, and being rid of all traces of doubts, imagination, notions of the mind in bondage, and immersed, undifferentiated in the ocean of Brahman bliss, enjoying the ineffable bliss, and thus cutting asunder the endless bondage of mundane misery, be ever established as the undivided existence.
I don't know why that makes me laugh. And thus cutting asunder the endless bondage of mundane misery. The words are so powerful, aren't they? Cutting asunder and the endless bondage, mundane misery. What's mundane? It's like boring. It's just like mundane is kind of if everything is the same, isn't it? So it's like you're just constantly in misery.
Mundane. It's an adjective lacking interest or excitement, dull,
Yeah.
of this earthly world rather than a heavenly or spiritual one.
Oh, yeah, misery is so mundane. I
Who
agree.
needs it?
I agree completely. And it's so boring because it's like the mind just wants to give you misery after misery after misery after misery, isn't it?
Well, I've got to control things. I've got to put them in order. I have to be secure. I have to protect myself. My body could suffer.
Yeah, how mundane. What mundane thoughts we have.
Mm.
I love how like sometimes Ribu is so just I don't know what the word is, just ruthless, you know, in his choice of words. That's good.
It's helpful to use my phone for reading him because I can hold my finger over a word and get the definition.
Oh, cool. That's good.
Yeah, and enjoying the ineffable bliss. And so I tapped on ineffable,
Mm.
too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words.
Oh, ineffable. Say again. Too great or extreme.
To be
Say again.
expressed,
To be
too
expressed.
great or extreme to be expressed or described in words.
That's wonderful. Ineffable. I like it.
Would you like to read this verse? I think it would be so beautiful.
The same verse?
Mm.
Sure, why not? Being ever of such conviction, alone about the one absolute in your heart, and being rid of all traces of doubts, imaginations, notions, of the mind in bondage, and immersed, undifferentiated, in the ocean of Brahman bliss, enjoying the ineffable bliss, and thus cutting asunder the endless bondage of mundane misery, be ever established as the undivided existence. Wonderful. Let's cut everything asunder. Let's do it. We're doing it. Ruby's doing it. Everything's getting cut asunder, shredded up. And like you're actually shredding up nothing. There's nothing even to cut asunder. The hilarious thing.
This is verse 8. There's not an atom of imagination at any time. There never is any mind that imagines. There never is a cycle of birth and death in the least. There never is one involved in the birth and death cycle in the least. There never is there never is even an atom of the world. There never is a lord of this world. Be of the conviction that there never is anything, and all that there is the supreme of the nature of awareness.
This is what fills your heart with gratitude. That's like unexplainable. You know, like how can you explain that? Like when it appears like you have a body and it appears like as if a body is talking and it appears like the body is in the world. But yet, like the body is saying there is no body and there is no world and there never was a mind. You know, like it's so like not understandable. Like nobody can understand that. But like yeah, but yeah, every heart knows it.
Mm.
Every heart knows it. So that just is. I feel like that's the only thing that can really, I don't know, fill your heart with gratitude and um, I suppose like satisfy satisfy us. That's the only thing that can really satisfy us. And that's why just like reading those words, I feel like there's just like I don't know, it's just so joyous. I feel like it's so joyous. And I think even if you don't understand the words, and maybe even especially if you don't understand, like just reading them is enough and hearing them is enough. And I know it does say that in this book as well, but I really feel that.
Mm.
And I'm glad I've always, like, somehow, I don't know, somehow been graced with that in me somewhere. Like, I often felt like I don't really need to understand, like, just to read things and these kind of things, like, not just this text, but other texts as well, just to read it is enough. and somehow just trust that if you're meant to understand, you'll understand, and if you're not meant to, you're not meant to. There's no need to add an extra worry about trying to understand things.
Mm.
Can I read the next one? It starts off with a wonderful sentence.
Mhm.
As the mind never exists, how can there be the appearance of the world, which is its handiwork, the mind's handiwork? As there does not exist even an atom of the world, where does the talk of an insentient body exist? As the body, a defect of the mind affecting spiritual advancement, never is, where is the existence of egoity? Be convinced that all is the supreme of the nature of knowledge, and that indeed am I. It's amazing, like your mind just can't understand it. But yet somehow it feels like at least I only know my own experience. So it feels like it's understood. And somehow like the mind wants to understand. So the mind still behaves like it wants to understand. And it might be like, oh yeah, it means this and that. But like like there's just sense like no, like that's not it. The mind can't comprehend it, it can't understand. Like how can it? Because it's basically saying the mind doesn't exist, and like the mind projects the whole world, but the world is not here because there's no mind here. So how can the mind possibly comprehend that? But yeah, like I know I just said the same thing a minute ago, but like I just feel like, but like our heart just knows it. Like I feel like I can feel it in my being. Like my heart knows it and understands it and feels it. But like I can't even understand it within myself, even with my own mind. My own mind that's not there. See. How can I understand it with something that's not there? Like, it's just like, yeah, and that's it. Like, it's like that's the only thing I feel that's like asked of us is to give up trying to understand. Like, if you give up trying to understand, then everything is as it is, like, and basically just give up the idea of the mind, isn't it? That's the only thing, because it's the only thing that causes us trouble. Like, that's not even a thing. Like, this is it. It's not even a thing. I'll just give up. You don't have to think about giving it up all the time either. Like sometimes, we might have a conversation about giving it up. Like we're talking about it now, and even these words, like so Ribu spoke these words. I'm sure he wasn't thinking about them a second after he said them. The words just came out. Because if you're thinking about giving it up, or whatever, you're still like engaging in like something that doesn't exist. Like somehow, even to say it feels false. Like so, even like you're not really engaging in something exists, because how can you really engage in something that doesn't exist? You're just not. It's like so mysterious, isn't it? Yeah, like whoa, it's just gonna blow your mind. That doesn't exist. Can't even blow your mind. But yeah, like when you're not having a conversation about it, then you're just
Mm.
in the truth of what they call it, Brahma, Supreme. What do they call it?
Mm.
What are they talking about again? What's going on here? Huh? Mhm.
Apart from the support that is the undivided substratum, there is no separate existence for the superimposition. Apart from the shining of the undivided substratum, there is no separate shining of the superimposition. Apart from the joy that is the undivided substratum, there is no separate joy of the superimposition. Apart from the nature of the undivided substratum, there is no separate existence for the superimposition ever.
So, what does superimposition mean today?
Superimposition.
I remember we were talking about it a different day, but I can't remember.
Um, let's see here if I can get it. Oh, it won't come up. My phone wants me to download the whole dictionary now.
Oh, okay, superimposition is too. That's too big of a word or something.
I guess so. Yeah. Let's see here. No, it won't come up.
I think superimposition might mean like just the false, like it's like an illusion, a projection. Like it's superimposed on consciousness, all these ideas about the world, like, the world itself really is like a
In
superimposition. It's like something that's not really there, it's imposed. It's imposed upon consciousness,
an
which is it.
appearance, an appearance.
Yeah, yeah, kind of, I suppose.
Hence, this is 12. Have the strong conviction that whatever exists, whatever happens, and whatever looks lovable are all the differenceless mass of existence, consciousness, bliss, Brahman. Never entertain in your mind at any time the frightening attitude that this perishable body and such are myself, and this world is apart from me.
Yeah, what a frightening attitude. Yeah. It's like
Well, I could,
if it happens sometimes, like I feel like it's just like the more you're kind of not having that attitude, like life is just so much more pleasant. Like you're actually alive. Like if you're having that frightening attitude that you're a perishable body, then like it is frightening and more like kind of like it just doesn't feel good. Like just in normal kind of language, and in a normal experience, let's say, of somebody waking up to the truth of who they are. It's just like every time it might seem to happen, it's just like, oh no, like I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, so it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna have that attitude. It's almost like we totally have the choice and the power to correct our own way of looking at things, because that's what an attitude is, isn't it? It's like it's a way of looking at things. And that's what's happened. Like consciousness looked at itself and had the attitude that all the superimpositions or appearances were something apart, and then also I, the one looking, is something apart, you know whereas that's not a great attitude to have. We don't have to have any attitude. We can just be free of attitudes and perceptions and ideas and yeah, all that.
a couple of weeks ago, you held something up and said, "Can you believe this?"
Yeah,
And it was irrelevant. I mean, belief
yeah,
doesn't really fit.
yeah, it was perfect. Because I Ananda
Mm.
did that in satsang one day. He held up his glasses like that. It's like, do you believe that? And you're like, your mind is like, what? But like, it's not saying anything. So that's it. Like all the appearances are not saying anything. They're completely innocent in themselves. It's like they're not saying anything. They're not saying what they are. They don't have a label. They're not saying they're different. They're not saying anything at all. And then it's just like some words or something that we believe, we give meaning to and belief to. Crazy. Far out.
Who needs it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Nobody. I
So
guess that's. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I guess that's just part of the game. Like, it's like we know that we don't need it, but there's just such a joy in remembering that we don't need it. So it seems like we needed it, or we wanted it, or we chose it. We chose to label this a phone, or label everything this that, and everything's different, and there's me and you, and I'm different, and like I'm better than you, and that person's better than that person, like all this. We did all that, but then we found that no, no, it's not good. And then there's such a joy in letting go of all that, and that's just the game. Somehow it seems like it's like there's not even any need for that joy because we're already complete joy. But I don't know. It's like nobody ever has an answer for that. I never heard
Well,
a definitive answer. There's no answer. It's just, but it is joyful to wake up again.
amen to the joy part.
Yeah, yeah. You look like you have the joy part down to a T.
Oh, it's so much easier when I'm looking at Amba's face.
What was your other name again?
Satyanam.
Satyanam.
In,
Satyanam.
Prem Satyanam means love is the door to truth.
Prem Satyanam. Prem Satyanam. Because I don't know, Steve doesn't feel like the right name for you. You know, like I often get that with people. I've often got that. Even like when I was a child, I had it with myself. Like I felt like, no, that's not my name. Like it's not the right name. It's just this weird thing that happens. So I just feel like Steve is like when I call you Steve, it's like it's weird.
Would you like to call me darling?
I call you darling. Darling's better. It's just more generic, isn't it? It's like everyone's a darling or a love. I like Prem is good because Prem is love.
Mm, mm.
Prem Satyanam is a bit of a mouthful.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Prem Satyanam. It's like that's like a whole sentence.
Right. It's like you're you're ordering off the menu and the waitress is in a hurry or something.
Yeah. Prem Satyanam. P.S. 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 No, there's no postscript because P.S. is like you're coming back for something else. You can't come back from this. It's like once you read the Review Gita, there's no coming back. So there's no P.S. You just have to stay nameless.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you mean is thought exists not, nor intellect, nor individuals. There is no world, no lord of the world, and not a trace of duality. All talk of its existence is just talk. Hence, son, daughter, with a conviction in the perfectly full Supreme Brahman, you should ever be of the incessant and committed conviction of non duality and thereby become liberated. Dispel all doubt, imagination, notions by the conviction of the mind that there is never anything as the scene which appears before you. Never, never, never. That all appearances arising as this, all this, is of the nature of the one, complete, perfectly full, all pervasive Supreme Brahman. And that immutable nature is myself. Thus, instantly attain the great liberation.
It's funny, like you know, if you're in bed at night, and you're having a dream, like is the dream really there? You know, you could dream of. I don't know. You could dream you're on the beach and you're touching the sand. And you have your feet in the water. And you meet people. Maybe you eat some food. It's like, is that really there? It's like it's not. It's like it appears to be there, and this is exactly the same. So it's like we're seeing all things, but they're actually not really here. It seems like we're seeing things, but they're just not here. Exactly the same way. They don't really exist. It's not even really there. It's not even really appearing. How could it appear? How can a dream appear? Like where is it appearing? Like there's no like if a whole beach, does a whole beach fit in here? Is the beach just like this size? Imagine like a beach like 5 miles long. You could dream you're on a beach. You could dream you're up in a helicopter and flying over a whole country. You could dream you're in space. I've dreamt like that I was in space and like you can see the earth. You can see the earth. Well, I didn't see the earth in my dream, but you could have that dream. You could have a dream like that. It's like where is that? Is it in there? In that space? In a way, it's like it's not even really appearing. That's the thing. I never really thought like that before. Like a dream isn't really appearing, because you know we have that thing like a dream is in our mind. You know when we see it, but then we think, oh, but this world is somehow different because it's really appearing. We think that, don't we? But this one is like real life. This one is really appearing. But it's exactly the same. It's not really appearing. Like where is it appearing? Like it's not really appearing. How can it appear in something like that's not a thing? It's not like a thing can only appear in a thing, isn't it? Like if you have a box like this size, something a little bit smaller might be able to appear in that box. But something that doesn't have a size, it's neither big nor small. It's neither like go it doesn't it's not like so big that it goes on forever. It's like or so small that it's like tiny. It's like it's no size. It's like size is an idea. Yeah. So there, how can something that doesn't have a size have something that with a size appearing in it?
I'm stunned again.
Yeah. Yeah, so am I.
Uh, mm. Well, let's address those appearances directly with verse 24.
Let's do it.
Whatever appears as apart from the supreme Brahman is ever complete unreality. Brahman, the mass of existence, consciousness, bliss, is the only thing that is ever changeless. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, which is differenceless, has none of these variations, and is the one complete, perfectly full reality at all places. By such uninterrupted conviction, become liberated.
You're liberated right now, isn't it? Anytime you're free of ideas of the world and anything connected to that, it's like you're free. You're completely liberated because you're free of ideas. That's the only thing that's like unliberated is like to be attached to an idea. That's it.
The it's just so noticeable that the effort has stopped. Um, the effort of making sense, yeah,
Mm,
this meaning making mechanism is just
yeah.
switched off, yeah.
Mm.
Would you like to try verse 25 or some other verse?
Yeah, I'd like to read verse 28. I don't know why.
Right,
Just,
right, off you go.
there is no why. So I'm always telling Eshan. He's always asking me why. Like there is no why. Like nobody knows why anything. And also I hear Ananta's often saying, he's like, can't answer why. Like instead of why, ask who. And he's like, it's just one little letter. They're both 3 letter words. There's why and who. Just change the why to a no. That's like much more worthy of your energy and time. Nobody can answer why. even
Beautiful.
even saying I don't know why, even that's like a waste of energy. Although I hear myself saying it a lot. I don't know. See, I don't know why. It's like it's like a habit or something. I don't know why. I just like to state the obvious or something.
Mm.
Maybe that's what it is. I seem like I hear myself stating the obvious. So. There are no holy waters apart from the self. Is no holy bath apart from the self. Having a bath in the holy pure waters of the self, with the understanding that I myself am the self, and enjoying unsatiated the undivided supreme bliss which is the self, always be established with utmost satisfaction and ever changeless as the self of the nature of the supreme Brahman. There is nothing that is eaten outside the self. The self is all the food that is taken. There is not an atom outside the self. The self is all the sentient things there are. In the firm faith that I am the self, and enjoying the bliss of the self, full of satisfaction, fully and firmly established and abiding, yourself, as the self, of the nature of the undivided Absolute, be established ever unwaveringly so. All the world and the beings that are an illusion superimposed on the self are never apart from that self, even if they seem to be outside the self. On proper inquiry, they will be found to be only that undivided self. I am the self. I am the self. I am the self. The self is all. I am the supreme Brahman, which is not different from the self. Ever in such conviction about the self, which is the undivided supreme Brahman, abide as that yourself. I can't imagine we need to say anything else after that.
A showstopper. So many of these verses are such in this chapter, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is my bookmark. Do
Oh,
you know what this is?
I'm seeing Ramana's pictures in the background, and then there's a big. Is this from the ashram in Tiruvannamalai?
Yeah. This is Ramana's ashram, and that's his. I don't know if his body is in there or something like that in the ground. I don't know. It's his shrine or something. I don't know. I
Mm.
think they call it his shrine, and like people walk all around. See those four poles?
Hmm.
Those four poles, and there's like a. You can see the fence in the background.
Yeah.
Well, you can walk. People like walk around, round and round and round.
Mm.
Yeah, the picture looks like a really old picture, like I took it myself, and it's really old. Can you see? And
Yeah.
now it just got a bit damaged. So, but it's really nice. Like, it's my bookmark. Found it in my book, and it's cool because the next chapter that we're going to read the next time is chapter 26. And I don't really know why chapter 26 is better than the other chapters. We might find out. But I know Ramana recommended a lot to read chapter 26.
Mm.
Although I find like many of the chapters very like potent and enough in themselves. So I don't know what could be better about chapter 26. But I'm sure Ramana knows what he's talking about. Or maybe he just happened to read chapter 26 like one time and he just happened to say it, and then like people tuned into the, you know, and he just happened to not say it about the other ones, but it doesn't really mean anything. Probably more likely to give me something like that.
So many chapters I get to the end, or even during, like this one, 25. Oh, this is the best one.
Yeah.
This one is my favorite.
Yeah. I think I feel like that after every time I read a chapter. It's like,
Mm. So we change the clocks here tomorrow.
oh yeah. So what does that mean? The clocks go forward.
They go forward. Yeah. Do you know when you do it on your side?
I think we usually do it at the end of March.
Okay.
Like probably the last weekend in March.
Okay.
So if you go forward, then if it's normally when it's 4 o'clock here, it's 8 o'clock there, 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that
so
means
for
the next time it'll be 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So your 4 o'clock will be mine 9 o'clock until you change.
Okay, so is that too late for you to meet?
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But it also means 3 o'clock is even easier if you want to do it that time.
Oh yeah. Okay. But then when I change mine, when we change time here, then it'll be the same again.
Mhm.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So either way, it's a great, great gift.
Yeah.
I feel almost greedy if I
Yeah.
by meeting every week, but if you're willing and available, I'll take it.
Yeah. No. No, I really like it and appreciate it. You know, any
Great.
time spent with like just the master's world, really, isn't it?
Mm.
Then of course that's going to be good. And it's
Mm.
not just the master's words, because inherent in the words is the presence and the being and everything. So we're just by choosing to meet with that intention of reading that together, and it doesn't matter how it plays out, plays out in many different ways.
Mm.
The important thing is just that we have the intention that that's what we want. We want that which it's pointing to. We don't want to be in the frightening attitude of like believing ourselves to be separate.
Or because that will mean that we're caught in the tentacles of transmigration.
Yeah. But we're just confirming. Like I feel like when you choose to do things like this, it's just confirming to yourself, really. There's only yourself, in whatever respect you look at it. Like we're just confirming to ourselves over and over again what's important. And at least here, that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's the only important. It's the only important thing. Like, why else would I be here? I'm here for anything. Thank you so much.
I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you too. That's the love of Ribu, the love of the self, loving.
Yeah. How beautiful.